How does the NHL's most hyped rookie go from being compared to generational talents like McDavid and Crosby to having his soft play picked apart by a hockey legend? Connor Bedard struggles with his skating balance, a rough face-off record, and defensive lapses have already put his name under a microscope. Even in his second year, his -36 rating and near-league worst face-off percentage have fans and experts raising eyebrows. But the question isn't just about stats. It's about whether Bedard can make the bold adjustments needed to rewrite his story. Let's break down what he must change now to avoid disaster and see why everyone is talking. Connor Bedard's early NHL seasons have become a case study in the weight of expectations. When he arrived as the top pick in 2023, the comparisons to generational talent like Connor McDavid and Sidney Crosby set expectations sky high. But as his first 2 years unfolded, the gap between the hype and his on-ice results became impossible to ignore. Fans and analysts alike started to wonder, was the pressure too much, too soon? A good place to start is with the numbers. Bedard's face-off win percentage was just 38.9% in his rookie season, a number you might expect from a teenager adjusting to the NHL. But instead of improving, it dropped further to 38.3% in his sophomore year. Winning less than a third of your draws as a center puts your team on its heels in key moments, especially when you're counted on to drive play. Then there's his plus-minus rating. Bedard finished his first year with a -44 and followed it up with a -36, both among the worst in the league. While it's true that the Blackhawks have struggled as a whole, those numbers highlight issues in his all-around game, not just the result of a weak supporting cast. Beyond the stats, the eye test has raised just as many questions. One of the most talked about moments came when Bedard lost his man in front of the net, leading directly to a goal against the Blackhawks. This play didn't just fade into the background. It became a focal point on national broadcasts. NHL legend Mark Messier didn't mince words, saying Bedard should have been benched for the play but wasn't, because he's a superstar. Messier added, he's soft on his stick. Excuses for a young player are over now.
This is a choice and this is a consequence for a young player there. He's right on Reinhardt. This is a 50-50 battle. He's soft on his stick. And I'm sorry, the excuses for a young player are over now. He has to be better than that. And sure enough, they get a power play, and who goes right onto the ice?
That kind of public criticism from a Hall of Famer carries weight. Paul Bissonnette, never shy with his opinions, described Bedard's defensive effort as pond hockey, suggesting his game away from the puck doesn't meet NHL standards.
Soft plays that are just going to get picked off. If he's playing like that, it's just not going to work. That is pond hockey.
These critiques aren't just about effort. They're about readiness. Bedard has been caught on camera stumbling during plays, sometimes losing his footing without contact, which disrupts his own momentum. While everyone has awkward moments, these slips have been frequent enough to fuel the narrative that he's still adjusting to the physical demands of the league. Add in the times he's been slow to react in defensive coverage, and the spotlight on his weaknesses only grows brighter. What's made all of this even more noticeable is Bedard's visible frustration. Cameras have caught him slamming bench doors, snapping sticks, and showing clear disappointment between shifts. While hockey fans appreciate passion, repeated outbursts can blur the line between caring and losing composure. This has led some to question whether he's ready to be the leader Chicago needs during a tough rebuild. Is it the constant losing, the lack of chemistry with ever-changing teammates, or just the pressure of being the face of a franchise at such a young age? Whatever the cause, it's clear the scrutiny isn't letting up. All these factors have combined to make Bedard's transition to the NHL anything but smooth. And while individual skill is important, no player can thrive in a vacuum, especially when the lineup around them keeps changing. The next big question is whether Bedard's struggles are mostly about his own game, or if the endless shuffle of teammates is holding him back from finding any real consistency. For Bedard, one of the biggest obstacles has been the lack of a steady supporting cast. The Blackhawks rebuild has meant frequent changes, and Bedard has had to adjust to over 40 different line combinations in just 58 games this past season. That constant turnover makes it nearly impossible to develop the kind of chemistry that leads to instinctive, effective hockey. Even veteran players struggle with this, but for a young center trying to find his NHL footing, it adds another layer of difficulty. The impact shows up in the way plays develop. or fall apart. Bedard has flashed his skill with creative passes and quick reads, but too often, those setups have gone unfinished because his line mates aren't anticipating the play. When you can't trust where your line is going to be, it's hard to build confidence or string together consistent offense. It's not just about missing goals. It's about missed opportunities to build trust and timing, the little things that separate average lines from great ones. This revolving door doesn't just hurt the offense. Defensive breakdowns have been common, with missed assignments and poor communication leading to extensive time in the defensive zone. Bedard has drawn criticism for his play away from the puck, but it's clear that a lack of chemistry and understanding with new line mates has made his job harder at both ends of the ice. He's often left trying to read and react to unfamiliar habits, which slows down his decision-making and leaves gaps for opponents to exploit. The Blackhawks recognize the problem. In an effort to stabilize things, they brought in experienced players like Tyler Bertuzzi and Teuvo Teravainen before the 2025-26 season. The hope is that with more established line mates, Bedard can finally settle into a rhythm and focus on developing his own game rather than constantly adapting to new faces. Still, even with these additions, it takes time for chemistry to develop, and growing pains are inevitable. All of this has taken a toll on Bedard's mindset. The frustration has been visible. Broken sticks, slammed bench doors, and that unmistakable look of disappointment after another missed connection or blown coverage. While some see it as a sign of competitive fire, others worry it's affecting his confidence and setting a tone of impatience. At just 20 years old, Bedard is still learning how to channel his emotions, especially when things aren't going his way on the ice. The bottom line is that chemistry isn't just a luxury for a young star like Bedard. It's a necessity. Without it, even the best talents can look ordinary. Now that the Blackhawks are making moves to provide a more stable environment, the spotlight shifts back to Bedard himself. With the pieces starting to fall into place around him, the next step is about what he can do to take advantage of that support and address the parts of his game that need work. So what exactly does Bedard need to fix if he wants to shift the narrative and avoid being labeled a bust? The main issues have been clear to anyone watching. Inconsistent skating, defensive lapses, poor faceoff numbers, and the mental grind of carrying a struggling team. This offseason, Bedard is confronting each of these head-on, showing that he's not shying away from the tough work. First, let's talk skating. Bedard's balance and edge work have been under the microscope ever since his rookie year, with too many moments where he's lost his footing at crucial times. Instead of ignoring the criticism, Bedard is putting in serious time on skating drills, working alongside other NHL players to sharpen his agility and add an extra step to his stride. He's made it a priority to bring more stability to his game, knowing that one slip can be the difference between a highlight reel play and a costly turnover. This focus isn't just about avoiding falls, it's about making sure he can dictate the pace, escape pressure, and create space in tight areas. Defense is another area where Bedard is making changes. Past interim coaches Anders Sorensen has emphasized the importance of being aware after mistakes and playing the full 200-foot game. Bedard's defensive reads haven't always been sharp, and he's been caught puck-watching or late on assignments more than once. But with the coaching staff stressing accountability and awareness, Bedard has started to show more discipline in his own zone. It's a process, and there are still growing pains, but the effort is there to make smarter reads and support his teammates defensively. Faceoffs have been a glaring weakness. With Bedard's win rate amongst the lowest for NHL centers, he's not taking this lightly. This offseason, he's working extensively on his faceoff technique with a skills coach, searching for new ways to gain an edge. Bedard himself has said he's experimenting with different approaches, looking to improve his timing, leverage, and ability to read opponents. It's not glamorous work, but winning faceoffs is crucial for a center who wants to control play and help his team start with possession. Mental resilience is just as important as the physical side. The pressure of being the face of the franchise can weigh heavily, especially when things aren't going well. Bedard's teammates like Nick Foligno have talked about helping him trust his instincts and not force plays. Bedard seems to be listening, showing a more measured approach to adversity. When asked about dealing with mistakes and criticism, he said, "I don't need to watch a broadcast. I know when I make a mistake." That kind of self-awareness paired with a willingness to learn is a sign of real maturity. Bedard's approach this offseason isn't about quick fixes. He's focusing on rest and recovery, understanding that being at his best means more than just grinding every day. He's taking advice from around the league and leaning on the support of his teammates and coaches. Even Nathan MacKinnon, who struggled early in his own career, has pointed out that Bedard is on the right track and that the lessons he's learning now are laying the foundation for future success. The work Bedard is putting in now won't erase every mistake or silence every critic overnight, but these targeted improvements, on the ice and off, are what give him a real shot at turning things around. Early struggles are just one chapter. What comes next will show whether he can turn those setbacks into the start of something bigger. Connor Bedard now faces a critical stretch in his career. Entering his third NHL season with a new coach, Jeff Blashill, and a renewed focus on his skating and all-around game, he's working to meet the high expectations that come with being a top draft pick. The Blackhawks' ongoing rebuild only adds to the challenge, as Bedard navigates a young roster and shifting team dynamics. With so much attention on his development, the question remains, will this offseason's focus and support help him turn the corner? Let us know in the comments. Do you think Bedard will deliver on the hype, or will the pressure prove too much? If you enjoyed this video on Connor Bedard, check out this one about his lifestyle. It's not what you think.